Well, hey, I'm Luther Kruger, Big Blue Sun Museum, Solar Cooking, based in Minneapolis, and I'm in Wilkesboro, North Carolina, with Trip Critz, who graciously is giving some time to talk about the Sun Oven. Kind of back on track, right? There's maybe a little hiatus. Production?
On the Villager.
Yeah.
As we were talking earlier, we had acquired the company in 2019, and when we did, we had been making these big Villager ovens for years, over 35 years, and they're all over the globe. We have hundreds of them, and so what we realized was that we weren't at a place where we could scale these, and so what we wanted to do was figure out, okay, what do we need to do in order to be in position to make 40 of these or 100 of these when the orders come in, and so we took a year and a half. We got this facility here, and then we took a year and a half to go through every single nut, bolt, screw, every piece of this Villager oven, and really build the solid bill of materials, and then get the process down. So we were meticulous about all the different stations and what you would do at each station. So we videotaped every single piece of the construction of this Villager oven. So at any rate, over a year and a half, we've been able to not only build the bill of materials. We're at a place where we can scale, but we also have the floor plans now that are there, the stations, everything ready to go.
Sure.
So,
and this is you're going to be doing it in Green Bay, did you mention?
Yeah, we are.
Okay, and this is kind of like a mock-up of what's going to go there, or how's that?
Yeah, somewhat. We've, if you can see on the floor that we have taped up some of these blue pieces of tape on here, and what those blue pieces are, they represent the different stations. And so we've put the tables there, and then what you don't see right now, but we have like little workstations that you move along. Then also, if you can envision, we'll have a big screen TV that's behind each station. And that big screen TV will be continuing to play all of the different, putting parts and pieces that how you put it together. So we built a workflow where people can go by. So each station will have their own workflow, have the videos playing, and all of the tooling will be right behind there, so they can literally just reach over, grab, and do what needs to be done, and it'll roll down the line. Okay. So
that sounds like the lean manufacturing thing. Just in time, everything's right there. Yeah. Everything within grasp.
Exactly.
That's incredible. Yeah.
So we're excited about it.
Yeah. Well, if you're up for it, to talk about the Shooks and their adventure, because for me, that's exactly one of the best stories I've heard of. Okay. Of quality assurance, customer service, and solar cooking. Yeah. Three of my favorite topics.
Yeah. And the Shooks love solar cooking.
Yeah. So how did you hear about them? When did they contacted you?
Yeah, they've been wanting to get one of these big Villagers for about 10 years, or even longer. Yeah. And so we just weren't selling them at the time, in the United States, because primarily these big Villagers go into rural communities and, other places to rural countries. Sure. So at any rate, he reached out, wanted us to build one. So we said, okay, we'll build you one. So we did. We built it, and then we put it in a crate. We had it all ready to go. We had a shipping company come get it. We shipped it out there, and when it arrived, it was all busted up.
Oh, I remember you telling me.
I mean, it was bad. So we were a little upset about that, and I told him, don't even receive it. Just ship that thing back. So they shipped it back, and also when we got it done, we fixed that, crated it back up, and I just put it on a trailer and personally drove it out there to them and delivered it. Because one, I wanted to meet them, and two, I wanted to let them know, listen, we're sorry about that, and that's not how we do business. Right. So, and then we built a great relationship, and it was good to meet them personally out there.
I visited them, and I actually had Mark do kind of a walk around and talk about how it was kind of a beta testing thing, a relationship that you built.
Yep, it was
fantastic.
And there were certain things that he said he said, well, have you thought about doing this? Have you thought about doing that? Yeah. And I told him exactly what we were involved in taking every piece of this thing and really making sure aesthetically it looked good, as well as the functionality. And so he gave us some great ideas. Yeah. So, that relationship was nice. And we actually came back and implemented some of those ideas he gave us.
Oh, beautiful.
Which is good.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about the Shooks, is that they're not just, hey, let's get this thing and, like preppers. We love the prepper industry. But they basically are waiting for the apocalypse to happen. So they order the ovens and they set them up on the shelf, and they know they got them in the garage if they ever need them.
I can't tell you how often I've heard that same thing. Yeah.
I'm like, take the thing out and use it. So the Shooks are like that. The Shooks are, man, let's cook something on this thing. And he's a great chef, by the way, too.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Remind me again how you got introduced to solar energy in any way, shape, or form, but specifically the sun oven.
Okay, sure, I'd be glad to.
Yeah.
So for 7 years, between 2012 and late 18, we were down in Africa, and we were out in the rural communities, and we were setting up decentralized solar power. We literally would go into an informal settlement, which if you've never been to Africa, an informal settlement is basically a 10 by 10 shack, and they put them side by side by side by side, and they have maybe, 100,000 of them in this one place. And so we were going into there and setting up like a solar pedestal is a big box about this big, has the batteries in there that you charge, and the pole goes up like this. The panels are on top that charge the batteries, and then almost like a circus tent, the wires would come down off of that into the 10 by 10 shacks. And so we were then providing them with power in order to charge their devices and things like that. And then we had created a big 40-foot shipping container where we put solar panels on the top of that, and then we were able to, we had a proprietary battery charging bank that we had built. And so literally the back of the doors on a 40-foot shipping container opened up, and we had batteries in there. And so you would have a battery that you would use to charge different things, and you would then come, hand it to us the next day, and maybe you're number 15. I would grab number 15, hand it to you, put number 15 in, and it will be charged for the next day. So we were able to do that, and then we were also doing digital education and setting up internet Wi-Fi infrastructures out in these rural communities as well. And some schools have never had internet until we showed up, and we set those up, and now, boom, they got devices, they're connected to the internet. The people in the little 10 by 10 shacks have not only solar power, but also internet access and all that. So anyway, we were all involved in doing that in Africa, and then a friend of mine introduced me to sun oven. They said, "Have you ever heard of sun oven?" I was like, "No, what is a sun oven?" I literally didn't know. And so once they did, and I realized that, sun oven had been in business for over 35 years and had a global footprint, and, we're in over 100 countries all over the planet. And what they were doing, I was certainly intrigued. So I met with Paul, who's the previous owner, Paul Munson, and we discussed things, and we eventually acquired sun oven. And so one of the things, like I said, that really attracted me to sun oven was not really the smaller oven, Luther, but it was this great big giant oven. Because being out in the rural communities, I knew what a game changer this thing was. I mean, when you can take something like this and you can feed 1,200 people a day, that's a game changer.
The idea is really great, I think, because you want to start out by feeding as many as you can. What I find about the individual cookers is if you got the one, if they don't make use of it, of course, no one knows. But if they do and it's just them, well, now they can't feed the others, and they're going like, well, why should we? Thanks a lot.
Absolutely.
I brought this to the Minnesota State Fair, and you wouldn't believe how many people 2 blocks, 3 blocks away, State Fair. Well, we thought it was like a radio dish, a radar dish. You get there and it's like, solar cut. Well, that's even better.
Yeah, we get that all the time. We take these to the show. They're wondering, what is this thing? Is it a satellite fell out of the sky? We just picked it up, put it on a trailer. No, but it's quite a piece. And I don't know whether you know this, but it takes over 100 man hours to build one of these things.
Oh yeah.
It's I mean, every piece of this thing is handmade, put together. I mean, it's just it's a task. But the thing that I love about this thing too, Luther, is that it sits in these rural communities, and it's a sustainable business model where they can bake the bread, not only feed people in the community, whether that's in an orphanage or whether it's a school, but they also then can sell the extra bread that they have into the community. And so it sits there and generates money in the community, and it's sustainable, so they can buy more flour, more mix to bake more bread and feed more people, those kind of things too. So
well, and one reason I started my channel was to get as much of the history of this stuff, because some of it is really buried or not, it's lost because it's on paper and it's in someone's attic. And so tell me about, you mentioned Haiti, maybe a few other countries where you're finding there are villagers that they've seen better days and they need a little tender loving contracting around.
That's right. Well, what we found was that like in Haiti, I was just telling you earlier that this lady there, a missionary, we sent lots of ovens to Haiti, these big villagers. These things get damaged, I mean, with neglect and just torn up. And so she found 3 of the villager ovens that were in disrepair. You couldn't use them. And so she wanted to get new panels, new of the reflectors on here. And then also we were looking at the preparation on the glass. So the 2 main things that over the years that could get damaged and things like that are the glass on here, and then we were finding, Luther, that these reflectors have been damaged. And then we were also hearing that the glass had been, broken through just neglect. And so what we realized was that in restructuring and rebuilding and redesigning every single piece of this, that we really needed to make sure that we had these reflectors that we could ship to other places and retrofit or restore damaged villagers and put them back in service. Because having sent hundreds of them all over the planet, we honestly, and we should know, but we don't know how many of them are still in operation, how many of them need a simple fix like a reflector or a glass. So that's part of what we put in place here so that we can figure out, okay, how do you put it in the crate? What's the shipping involved? Blah, blah, blah. And then also instructing people on how to pull these, black plates off and put the reflectors back on, and all that is a process. So that was part of what we were doing here as well.
Sure. And why that's so good to hear is, I think 2 or 3 years ago, I forgot who I emailed, and I said, I just got a villager. I knew Susan Regali, and I was about to go to Albuquerque with Sandia Labs, where they had the original that they helped Tom Burns perfect. Yeah. And I thought, well, what would be really cool is, they have these Airstream clubs with the Airstream trailers. They meet once a year, and I'm thinking, well, maybe we wouldn't meet once a year with these, but at least to get kind of a talking group going of people that actually have them.
Absolutely. Yeah. And matter of fact, on that note, what we're putting together right now, we don't know whether we're going to be able to pull it off this year. We are hoping maybe August, early September, is that we can do like a little gathering of people that own the sun ovens, both the small and the big, and maybe just, can you see it? All of them just coming out to a great big field, and we have, cooking all kinds of things, sharing recipes, talking about the sun oven. So we're really working to put that together. So we'll either do that in September this year or the following year. Cool. But yeah, that's on our radar to do that, because we're working right now. Matter of fact, I'm going to be in Mexico. We're looking at some manufacturing facilities down there in a few months. My son-in-law is from Mexico. Okay. And so he's an engineer with Texas Instruments, and his father actually helped build some of the manufacturing facilities down there. And so anyway, we're looking at, maybe doing some manufacturing there in order to open up some of the Latin American market down there. Cool. Isn't it amazing we take for granted some of the simple things? I mean, just a cooker like this, what it can do in an entire community, or even one of the smaller ones in somebody's life. I mean, like we're talking about Africa. I mean, a lot of people don't think about it, but these kids come in, these little 10 by 10 shacks, and they're reading at night and doing their homework with paraffin fumes with the light. And so the inhalation of these paraffin fumes and all these toxic things are a bigger killer in Africa than getting eaten by, wild animals or chopped up by warlords or whatever. It's a bad problem. Not even mention, as the deforestation side, but nonetheless, we take for granted things that can just change communities and lives, in a big way. So we're a lot of things. We really want to get the word out more, and I appreciate what you're doing.
Oh, sure. Oh,
I mean, goodness gracious, Luther. And well, thanks for getting the word out.
Oh, you're welcome. No, this is great, and especially just a high quality community cooker like this.
Yeah, like I said, Michael, I'll introduce Michael. Come over, Michael. Let me introduce you. Yeah. This is Michael Olsson. Yes. He's our chief technician on this villager. So he painstakingly over a year and a half took apart every single piece of this entire oven, and the craftsmanship that he put into this is amazing. So I definitely wanted to thank Michael and let everybody know really on the technical side, and is who's responsible for what you're looking at right there. So
well, you guys talked about earlier, the whole point was though to make this to be able to rehab the old ones as well as have a quality one moving into the future.
Yes,
where all the parts are made exactly the same every single time. So it's easy to replace the glass, easy to replace pieces parts. That was the main goal of it all.
Sure.
Because whether it's been around for 30 years or 3 years, they still serve the same purpose, and that's feeding the people across the globe.
Yeah. A quick question about the reflectors, because the New Mexico model, they got cracked up a little bit and exposed. There was plywood between. Is it still a plywood?
It's actually a poplar.
Okay.
There were some made with plywood, I believe.
Okay.
But now it's actually a solid poplar.
Oh, cool. Good, good.
And there's been more, I think, attention now to the caulking that goes in between the metal that wraps the both pieces of aluminum. So there's a lot of detail that goes into it.
Sure.
I mean, the amount of time that it takes, we were just talking because we're making 3 new sets of these reflectors right now, just so that we can figure out, okay, how do you crate them? How would we ship them, you know, as well? And then we're restoring one of our older villagers. So we're literally taking that and taking the approach, Luther, of, okay, this might represent what you would find out in a rural community that's been there for 20 years or 15 years. So then what would it take to actually put new reflectors on that? Are the holes drilled in exactly the same place? If we sent the reflectors down, could you literally just put them right back on the plates that are there? Do we need to ship the black plates as well? And so we're restoring that in order to now be in position to be able to help people restore the villagers and put them back in operation. So
sure.
And we're doing it in a way, though, that will actually have a little bit of give in the way it's built to actually be able to modify the older ovens quicker and easier. And sent with that will be the instructions, whatever tools you need, everything that you need to get that thing back up and going. So you don't have to try to figure out, I don't have a wrench, I don't have a screwdriver. You know, because obviously where these are, you know, stationed, you don't have a hardware store down the street.
You can't run down to Lowe's or Menards or something.
So we try and think of
everything.
The rural community. How do we get this up and going, fail safe? You know.
One of the people I'll be revisiting is Dave Chalker in upstate New York. The second tour when we pass through here. He has a hybrid box cooker. So it's a box cooker with a heating element as well. So the sun goes down or whatever, just flip the switch. But I was emailing him, and in the middle, I talked about I'm going to be checking out the new Son of a Villager facility. And he said he has an email from Bernard Mueller, who's one of the godfathers of solar cooking in Europe, who said he was touring one country in Africa where all of a sudden, just driving by, there's a Son of a Villager, you know, overgrown with vines and stuff. And it just broke his heart.
I know. That's the stories that we're getting. And so we're thinking, you know, now why don't we go and find those? And so, matter of fact, I introduced you to Jessica in the office, and again, Jessica's been working for Son of for over 25 years. She knows everything. She knows more about Son of than I do. But basically, we took I wanted to find every piece of invoice, every place we shipped them, every contact name, the whole 9 yards. Over the past 35 years, I want to know where every single villager went. So right now we're compiling all of that information, putting it together in a database, so I can literally now go down the list and start finding out, hey, what's going on with the villager? Is it still in operation? If not, what does it need in order to bring it back into? So we're serious about that side of things as well.
I thought that was a great idea because everybody needs to be connected in this environment. So if somebody does have trouble or somebody needs to learn or
absolutely,
you know,
because even though we're a for-profit company, of course, you know, you got to make money to stay in business and do what you do. But, you know, the money's, you know, that's one thing. But where our heart and our passions are, especially like yours as well, is that, you know, we want to make sure these ovens are being used and helping people, changing their lives, you know. So, you know, it's great that there's a community.
Now, how about we move to the old one and talk a little bit about that, what you're learning from that?
No problem.
That's this is pretty much my model.
This oven, again, this one right here this one has, it has so many miles on it, it's not even funny. This thing has been drug all over the country, literally, on that old trailer over there. And so, you know, this thing was in need of a little TLC. I mean, literally, we could take this thing right now outside in the sun, open it up, and you could cook on it. But, you know, we wanted to say, again, what needs to happen in order to, you know, change these panels. So we're kind of using this as a test model. But, you know, the older design, as you can tell on I don't know if you can see it or not, but over where the door is on the other side, it's a little more flat back there. This one is a little more rounded. So some of the design changes that we made from this one to this one, you know, really from a functionality standpoint and, you know, those kind of things were significant. So, but again, you know, this thing is a workhorse, and we build these things to work. You know, so it's.
Well, and while I put this thing up, Remind me what the space was. What, Olympic pool?
Yeah, so this space, the space that we're in was an old YMCA, and they had filled in the big Olympic-size swimming pool down here. And so we have about 20,000 square feet, not just in here, but behind there in the racquetball courts and things like that, in order to, to do what we need to do. I mean, it takes a lot of room to move these things around and do what we do. But the redesign, this was perfect for that redesign.
Sure.
And then our hopes for this facility are that we can continue to use this like a R&D facility and continue to fine-tune stuff. And then once we figure it all out, we don't have to, mess with, the production side, because they're already just going, as hard as they can to keep pumping out the oven. So here we can do different things. We can, redesign. Oh, maybe this will work. We can test it out. And then also we want to use this facility as a training facility to bring people in here to train them on the Villager, so that if they are from a third world country, or if they want to go maybe on a missions trip or something like that, we can start to train them on how to use the Villager oven, so that when they hit the ground and there's a Villager or there's one of our smaller All-American ovens, then they know what's going on. They know how to use them, and they can explain to people and show them, demonstrate.
Yeah.
So we see really that this part as maybe a training R&D facility, but it's been perfect for that function.
Sure.
Also inside the oven, you'll see that. Let me open this up here real quick and show you. So this little tray in here, this grill. So yeah, that when you're driving around, if you're not careful, that'll bump up, and that's happened before, and it'll fall out, and it can damage the inside of it. So we now have locked that down and secured it. So even in transport, it's not going to go anywhere at all. So, and then on the sides, where these where they bolt down, we've redesigned that whole thing so that now nothing happens as far as any movement on it from side to side, and you've locked in. So really, we took a look at all of the pieces and the parts, and we really wanted to go do a deep dive into the precision and also the functionality of the ovens.
Sure.
So we've been able to do that now, and what you see over here is the new and improved version, and aesthetically too, Luther. It's cool because if you look down here, you can see there's still these screws. In my opinion, they should have been cut off and whatever. But again, these things were workhorses to be sent out. Yeah. But now on this one, it's not that much effort. You can look on the back and you can see all the lines are clean. All the stuff is there. The bolts are cut off, and it's like it looks pretty. Sure. So why couldn't we have the functionality and the aesthetics? Yeah. So we went for that as well on trying to redesign some stuff.
Yeah.
We just had a call from a guy, an insurance company had called us. And evidently this guy had a Villager, and his house had burned down. And he had this thing in a shed beside his house. It burned down, and the oven burned down. So the insurance adjuster was calling us wanting to know, what's the replacement value on these ovens? Because he wanted to get another one in the insurance, and he had it insured. So evidently, that was interesting. Yeah. So, you don't really know. I don't know how many of them are here in the United States. I mean, our primary focus was abroad, right? But you know how much these things weigh. Oh, yeah. They weigh 1,000 pounds.
Is the cooker itself 1,000?
Oh, it's the base, the pedestal, everything. This one, this one right here, that's on the new one, that's just 1,000 pounds. Okay. Things are heavy. Okay. Yeah, and we've seen people that have lifted them up in like Africa and other places. Yeah. They have them on top of the roofs. I got pictures of them.
Somebody can't steal it.
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
Yeah. And there's one picture I had two of them up on top of a roof in Africa. I'm thinking, what? How did you get it on the roof, man? I mean, unbelievable.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah, no doubt.
That was important, nonetheless.
Yeah, that was good stuff.
So I think mine, through to some shifting, the reflectors don't quite, sandwich nicely.
Well, that was another aspect of the whole thing. When I first saw the reflectors, that was like a nightmare, because there's not enough room for all the reflectors. Right. So we redesigned the first reflector that goes down, the first one that goes on the glass. That trapezoid has been taken off.
Oh, wow, okay.
So now that goes down first without the trapezoid. And that lone trapezoid actually now goes on the top.
Right.
So,
okay, sure.
So that you're not pressing into the,
for all everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now, if you,
that's something that we could actually easily modify.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
and you can see how they kind of slope down a little bit, and so the weight really is on each panel.
Yeah.
So we put the around the sides, we put the stoppers, so that literally when you set that thing down, it's laying flat now.
Yeah.
Each of them are in line. It's flat. They're not drooping. They're not banging into each other and digging into the the reflectors and all of that.
Well, then all the stress on the hinges.
Yeah. Different pad system for when you're traveling.
Yeah.
To help protect.
Yeah.
Everything.
Well, what he did was he just put big, thick cardboard, whatever box, and and made sure they were in the. If they weren't quite the same size,
Absolutely.
they would go where the corner hook and stuff was.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And now 35 years, later, we're just able to start looking at some of those and addressing some of those things, because I mean, at scale, you want to have. I mean, these things aren't cheap.
No.
Now the price on these things are $28,500.
Yeah.
So if you wanted one today, it's 28 grand. So, when you're paying that kind of money for a Villager sun oven, everything's got to be, right and tight. I mean, so.
Well, and that raises the question then, you're sending over to Africa, maybe Asia, South America eventually, who knows where.
Yeah.
What organizations are you connecting with? If you can share that, that are helping to get them procured.
Yeah, sure. Well, we work with a lot of different organizations. For years, we were selling with the Rotary Club. So Rotary Club was big. They would call us up and go, "Hey, we got a project down here. We need the ovens." And so, literally, what was happening at that point was we would design the ovens and we would ship them. But as far then as maintaining the relationship and those kind of things, we didn't do that. To kind of follow up, they wanted to handle that. So they had all their people down there, and they were overseeing the project. And also, we kind of lost track of, hey, what are those? What happened to those old villagers we were the So Rotary was one. We also, the last two we sent to Malawi were a solar company out of Sweden had actually purchased the two big villager ovens in order to ship down to Malawi. So they wanted to manage that project. So what we try to find when we're working with organizations is, number one, do you have the team on the ground that's able to, kind of oversee, train, make sure the maintenance and things get done, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a lot of NGOs and a lot of really now the social impact side is becoming real instrumental. A lot of the companies that are just, hey, we want to do something socially responsible. We want to be able to give back to communities. And so they're tired, and which we were doing years ago in Africa. We didn't go down there with a nonprofit mentality.
Right.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying it was more of, how do we put something in place that's sustainable? We don't want to put a Band-Aid on a problem. We want you to have kind of a vested interest in something so that you'll take care of it. And so the organizations now that we work with, we want to make sure those kind of elements are in place.
Yeah.
So
funny you mentioned Rotaries. I've interviewed over 100 people by now. I'd say 1 out of 3 when I say, well, how did you get started and how did you end up promoting Rotaries? They mention the Rotaries.
Absolutely.
It's like they kick,
The amount of work,
take care of business.
Yeah, the good that they've done all over the planet is amazing.
Yeah.
To help try to solve problems that are with simple solutions.
Sure.
So those are primarily kind of things, organizations we work with.
Yep. So. Well, and remind me again how you got connected with the whole operations.
We've been actually friends about 25 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Michael is a master craftsman.
Yeah.
So
I just grew up with from all the way from my father on, in just hands-on.
Sure.
And that just kind of accelerated, and God's given me the ability to figure out, see things where they are and where they can be, and then how to get there.
Yeah. So you're the right guy for the R&D part here. That's for
He's totally the right guy.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, like you said, he's using the wisdom of, I don't know how many of our listeners, whether they're, spiritual or not, but, hey, we believe in, the things of God. We believe in the Holy Ghost. I mean, you might not even know, but he's the one that leads us, guides us, helps us, shows us great and mighty things that we know not, right? I don't want to get to preaching, but Michael believes, and he comes in and he's like, okay, Lord, what is it that we need to do to solve that problem? And so he's literally listening to how it is that we can better something with a heart towards, God using these to solve problems. And so that's why, whenever I knew that we had to redesign this thing, and I was thinking, who am I going to get that will pay that close attention to every single detail? And of course, the Lord brought up Michael.
It's a passion for me because I don't look at a rivet or a piece of metal or a screw. I look at what that represents, which is helping somebody, whether it's U.S. based or disaster-based or, third world country.
Yeah.
It's all the same to me. We're all God's children, so.
If you get a chance, if you haven't already seen the Solar Oven Partners interview, they were actually the first one I did the summer of 2020. And they have 4 or 5 shops in the Dakotas where they put together the various parts, and then in Raymond where they put them all together, and that's where we met. And they said there's one shop in, I don't know, Zealand in North Dakota or something where women sew together pot holders, and they put 3 or 4 pot holders into each cooker that ships. But before they ship them out, they all put 2 of them on, and they pray. Yeah. They pray with them holding hands.
We literally did that with this right here. When we finished this oven right here, we got around the team and we prayed and we said, Lord, this is absolutely the best that we can do right now. This is every piece, every part we put our heart and soul into, and this is the best we have. And we're bringing it to you, just like the little boy that brought the fish and chips. And we're saying, Lord, we're putting this in your hands. Yeah. And we ask you to take it, to bless it, to multiply it, so that it can go all over the place and solve problems and save lives and everywhere, So we have, that's our heart with this stuff, Luther.
Yep.
So, sure, it's, money's money and you got to make money, and that's a but really the heart of taking something that God's entrusted you with.
Yes.
And to be able then to take that to the next level and to put that into place and to do things is just amazing. Yeah. And that's literally the heartbeat of what I love about the company, Luther, is that's the heartbeat all the way from Tom Burns all the way to where we are today. That whole thread has come through the entire company.
Sure.
So, it's amazing to be a part of something like that.
Yeah. And the Solar Oven Partners, they're a mission within the United Methodist Church.
Okay.
There's so many that start with a faith-based organization because they know they're the ones that really do most of the outreach in the countries.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's where it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we work with some other organizations as well, and some you can talk about, some you can't, right? But it's exciting what's happening, because people are starting to see, really, from a solar cooking perspective, how much these things can solve problems and change lives.
Back to the point of what you're doing, though, help shed the light on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, cool. I can't think of any other questions. I mean, I know as soon as I drive away, I'm going to think of more. But
I'm sure you will.
We can always follow up. But this covers so much of the bases that I'm glad. Thank you.
It's a real pleasure to meet you.
Same here.